Well, hello there, Jesus loving logger friends. I am glad to see you back for today. We're going to talk about another future prophecy. And this future prophecy has elements of it that are showing up in the news today. So I'm putting it on the list of things that help prove the Bible because certain parts of it are coming true. Before I get started today, I'd like to read a verse that was on my mind this week. Just yesterday I wrote it down and thought I wanted to tell you guys. So I thought I would start with this. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This means take him serious, seek him, fear not living how he wants you to live. And through doing these things, you'll gain wisdom. That's Proverbs 9, verse 10. So fear God, not just like I'm scared of God, which there's an element of that because God is all powerful and we are scared of being judged by him. But we know our judgment's been taken care of by the sacrifice of Jesus, but we still fear not doing life the way he wants, not taking it seriously, So anyway, I hope doing some of these proofs videos on the Bible is helping you have more faith in the Bible, and more faith you have in the Bible. If you believe what it says about Jesus, I hope you take that serious and you guys have prayed that sinner's prayer and that you have a desire to be saved. But anyway, today we're going to talk about Ezekiel 38. It's one of the most talked about prophecies. If you listen to anybody who talks about prophecy, over and over I hear them talking about Ezekiel 38 and how this week this happened, and constantly there's stuff in the news about Ezekiel 38. They always say it's casting its shadow. You're starting to see the shadow of something before it actually gets there. So the prophecy talks of an alliance of huge nations that come against Israel. I showed you on a map before how small Israel was, and we can see how big all these neighbors are. The nations are under different names today, but in the Bible, they're called Magog, Persia, Cush, Put, Beth Togarmah, Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. So Rosh is Russia, or the north area. Meshech and Tubal are Turkey. Persia is Iran nowadays. Cush or Ethiopia are not current Ethiopia today, but current Sudan. Put is Libya. Gomer is Turkey. And Beth Togarmah is also another part of Turkey. So Russia, Iran, Turkey, Libya, Sudan, Kazakhstan, and some smaller nations like maybe Afghanistan. These nations all come together, and probably there's no doubt that all of them could destroy Israel with no effort, So, Israel is powerful. I don't know, I've looked at different websites. I've heard that it's like the 8th most powerful, and then I just looked it up and I came up with like the 18th most powerful nation, but it's a nuclear nation, so that puts it at a different place. There's a lot of different places that say a lot of things, but out of hundreds of countries, to be in the top 18, even if that's what it was, is pretty impressive. God will use this to show his power. He allows all these stronger nations to group together and come against Israel. And it says that nobody will stand with them. And when it says nobody, it probably means nobody. Even though we have an alliance with them right now, we're probably not going to stand with them. So the only people that say anything about it is Sheba, Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish. And they don't fight with them. They just say something like, why have you come? Are you come to take plunder? Are you going to rob them, basically? And they're not very happy about it, but they're not fighting for them. Well, the reason they're not happy about it probably is because they're friends. Well, up till recently, up till the Trump administration, Sheba and Dedan being Saudi Arabia has not been very friendly with Israel because they're more of a Muslim country. They have become, they come into a trade agreement, normalization agreement, I think they call it. I don't know if they're signed on with the Abraham Accords yet or if they're going to, but when Trump started the Abraham Accords, they made a deal with Israel that they would trade with them and that they could travel between one another because they're both making money off of it, off of the trade and the people traveling back and forth. It's good for both of their economies. So they've become friends just very recently. So for them, in this verse, that's one prophetic fulfillment that they would even question why all these other nations are coming against Israel. And you would think until recently, until the Biden administration came in, that we would be right there fighting with Israel. But now you can, if you watch the news and how we're treating Israel, you can see that that's not quite the case anymore. So God said he will bring a powerful earthquake first that will overturn mountains and cause the enemies to fight each other, which he did do in the past. So Israel didn't have to fight. He brought nations against themselves. Then those left will be subjected to a plague and a powerful storm of rain. Then hailstones, then burning sulfur, probably a volcano or something. God defeats Israel's enemies for them to show his power and glory. God is the one who ultimately draws this alliance against Israel too. It says that he puts hooks in the jaws of Gog, which seems to be the leader of this group. Gog of the land of Magog. So Gog is like the leader. It's like probably a person. So this leader, God entices him with land, livestock, wealth, and many countries want the wealth that they have there. It could be the food that they've created. They've created technology to desalinize the water. They create a lot of water, which in turn they use to create a lot of food now. And if food starts depleting in the future, you can see how that could be something they might come after. And also they have found recently a lot, like billions and billions of barrels of natural gas and oil right off their shores. And they found out that they're very, very rich in natural resources like that. And we know nowadays that gas, oil, all that is becoming more important than finding a treasure chest, you know. So that could be one of the reasons. And you can also see Russia's gas pipeline got blown up, right? And Russia, some people call Russia a giant gas station with a military, because that's the main source of income for Russia, is all the gas and oil that it produces. And that's why it had control in the beginning. It was threatening other European nations that if they got involved, it would cut oil supply off to them. They'd have pretty cold winters. They wouldn't have natural gas to cook on, and it would just cut off their oil resources, you know. And anyway, then the pipeline got blown up. So Russia has been hurt in a sense on their oil reserves, and they made up for it. They're selling all the excess to China now, it sounds like. So they're still doing fine. They're actually making pretty good money right now. But you know that it's making them mad. They don't have that hold on Europe like they did. They were the main supplier in Europe, and now Israel's starting to funnel out a little bit of its own oil, and that's making Russia mad that Israel's helping where they were trying to hurt, basically. And I don't think Israel's doing it directly right now. I think they're sending a lot of it to Egypt to be refined and then sent out from Egypt, but they're the source of it. And a couple months back, there was a thing about Libya on their northern border. I believe it was Lebanon. Maybe it was Lebanon. Whatever's on their north border right there. It was right by the border, but still on Israel's side, where they found one of these huge oil reserves, and they started pumping out of it. And then Lebanon threatened to start fighting them militarily very heavily if they didn't give it to them. Well, Israel just handed it right over, which I couldn't believe. I mean, that's their riches. And I'm like, well, I thought I saw Ezekiel 38 starting to happen, but this. And then right after that, there's another gas field that they detected. I think it was just natural gas, though. But, I mean, still, they're just constantly finding all these natural reserves right off of their coastline. They're just very, very rich in oil. It went from being a desert to what it is now culturally, and with all the farms they got going and the fruits they grow and the water they produce and now all the oil they produce. It's quite an amazing place. But that shows all the riches that they have that people might be wanting to come for. I better start going a little faster. There's a lot in this prophecy I wanted to get to. It's going to be kind of long. Okay. The current war in Ukraine is depleting what we call the world's breadbasket. This is why I mentioned that it could also be food, because Ukraine was a huge producer of oils. The oils we use not for fuel but for cooking, like vegetable oils and olive oils and wheat for bread and stuff of that sort. A lot of that came from Ukraine. I had no idea that Ukraine produced as much as it does, but it was a huge percentage of the world food came from there. So I don't know the current situation between Russia and Israel. I know Russia's starting to put tension on Israel, but I don't know. Israel used to get a lot of their petroleum from Russia, and I think recently they aren't getting any petroleum, or maybe very little. I think they're self-sufficient in petroleum now, but they couldn't count on them for long anyway, because the Bible said that Russia and Turkey would come against them, and those were pretty friendly nations to them till recently. Well, in 1909, Cyrus Scofield wrote the Scofield Study Bible, and it was very popular. And in it, he wrote down about Ezekiel 38, and people questioned him. He said that Russia would come against Israel in that battle of Ezekiel 38, and people told him, they're like, we got two problems here. Israel doesn't exist anymore. It's been it's been 1900 years they haven't existed. And he said, well, it says right here in the Bible that Israel is going to be, that people will come against it, so it has to be there. And so anyway, that's one problem, that Israel didn't exist at the time. And the other problem was Russia was an Orthodox Christian nation back then. The largest percentage of their population was Christian, and that a Christian nation would never come against God's anointed people, right? Well, or his chosen people. But now they're one of the largest Muslim nations in the world, and and Israel does exist. So both of those problems, Cyrus Scofield just wrote it out like it talked, and people didn't understand how it could possibly happen, and now we can see that. This is also something we need to realize is dangerous for us. The United States was founded on Christian morals by Christian people trying to get away from a nation that oppressed them for what they believed, and they wanted to be free to worship God. And now our nation isn't as Christian friendly as it used to be. And also there's a prophecy that God says, bless Israel and I'll bless you, and those who curse Israel, I will curse them. He said that in Genesis 12:3. Zechariah 12 says, God will destroy whoever comes against Israel. Do you think that it's any coincidence that the United States flourished financially and militarily following our help to the Jews during World War II? I don't think so. I think we stood with God's people, and so he honored what he said in the Bible, that he would bless those who blessed his people. We stood up for him, we blessed him, so he blessed us back. And anytime we've came against him, if you look up a study on remedial judgments, Dr. David Reagan talks about it quite a bit, about certain times things happened, like when we came against Israel and wouldn't stand with them. Iran was coming in and bombing some of their holy sites, and they were trying to fight. We wouldn't fight back with them. We told them, get out of there, or we're not going to help them out. And as soon as we left, a hurricane comes in or something, and you can't prove any of that. That's not biblical, but it is fascinating to see what happens at the moment somebody comes against Israel or holds Israel down, oppresses them. So I think we still need to stand with Israel. It's pretty important that we don't walk away from them. Another issue here that's recently being solved is Turkey and their relationship to Russia. Okay, Turkey is part of NATO, and NATO is the military branch that has a whole bunch of different nations in it. And Article 5 is if you come against us, like if, say, Russia tried to bomb the United States, well, in the NATO agreement, under Article 5, I think it is, all the NATO nations involved have to come against Russia with us. They have to stand by our side, and we become one giant military leadership or giant military presence there. So NATO right now is very much against Russia in this Ukrainian war. They're the main problem because we're sending so much stuff over to Ukraine to help them fight the war with Russia. So Russia hates NATO right now. Well, Turkey, being part of NATO, but prophesied to be in accordance with them, coming against Israel in this future battle. There's a problem there, right? So anyway, Turkey, they have the second largest military presence in NATO, second to us. And they've just recently said they don't have any desire to militarily come against Russia. In fact, other news shows that they would rather become in alliance with Russia in something called BRICS. Okay, so NATO and the United Nations, they're both intergovernmental groups of different nations that are in compliance with each other for banking systems and trade goods and military alliance, all that kind of stuff. A new one just started called BRICS. And I mean, it's fairly new compared to the other ones. And BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So those are all the 5 groups of nations that started this. And anyway, this group would trade with each other. They would have built a new banking system separate from SWIFT. The rest of the world deals with a banking system called SWIFT, or most of the world that we live in now does. And they would make their own banking system separate from that. And they wouldn't use our currency. So the petrodollar, being the United States dollar, is the most commonly traded currency in the world, but they want to get away from that. They don't want to be held down by the United States or their currency anymore, especially with the way that our country is spending recently. The combined size of BRICS right now is 27% of the world's land mass, population of 3.2 billion people, and a gross domestic product of $51 trillion. So that's just with BRICS. Well, BRICS are the 5 original nations that started, and I had to actually edit this just a couple weeks ago. I had to write more notes in here because it's changing that rapidly. So now in the news, they're talking about their new currency that they're getting together, that they're going to start trading with each other. They're going to make it digital. And not only this, but 5 more members want to join this year. The members that want to join are Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Argentina, and Turkey. So Turkey wouldn't mind getting out of the NATO alliance and getting into this BRICS alliance because Russia and China are big and they're powerful, and all these other nations, which if you count up the 5 nations I just said with the original BRICS, that's 10 nations. And anybody that knows about Daniel's prophecy knows that it talks about 10 nations in the end time, 10 kingdoms that come together and give their power to one man. So it's just awesome to think about multiple prophecies that might be starting to come together here. So in Daniel, when it talks about the Antichrist, it says he starts out small and then he uproots 3 out of the 10 nations and takes over. He becomes a leader, and the other kings were only given power and authority for a time so that they could give it to him. And then he becomes a ruler over all these 10 nations. Anyway, just funny that there's a 10-nation environment about to happen. It started out with 5 BRICS, and these other 5 nations want to come in, and that's going to add a lot more to the land mass and the trade and the power behind their currency. So anyway, we could likely see Turkey walk away from NATO soon to join this alliance, and then that's how you have it right there, how Turkey and Russia could be the 2 biggest parts of this puzzle. Iran's always been against us and Israel, and right now Iran is actually getting in a little closer with Russia as well, which they're going to be the third part. Well, I mean, there's several parts I talked about, but Iran, Turkey, and Russia are the 3 big ones. And Iran right now is buddying up with Russia. Russia's helping them with some technology. Iran keeps getting bombed by Israel when they try to make all their drones and their weapons. So Russia's like, come on up here, Iran, come into Russia, and you can put a drone factory up here, and we'll help you crank out as many of those kamikaze suicide drones as you guys need. So that's happening right now. Russia is buddying up with Iran, helping them make weapons for coming against currently their neighbors there. But it could be for a future war too, that they get in together. So those 3 nations are about to get closer and closer. All these nations are starting to deal with each other trade-wise and militarily training. Anyway, we can just see all these parts of Ezekiel coming about, because until about 3 years ago, these guys didn't have much to do with each other. And all of a sudden now they're having a lot of interest in each other, which there's no way. I'll keep saying it. There's no way that God didn't write the Bible, and he's given us prophecies. He's telling us the future in the Bible, how it's going to go down. And just like Schofield said, Russia's going to come against Israel. And people are like, there is no Israel anymore. And Russia's Christian. That couldn't happen. You're crazy. And he said, well, the Bible says it. And now we see how that's all possible now, So, and it also said Iran was going to be one of the main enemies of Israel. And they weren't. In 1979, the Islamic Revolution started, and that caused Iran to be an enemy of Israel. Up till then, they were helping Israel out. So before that, when people read the prophecies about Iran coming against Israel, they're like, they're pretty friendly to us right now, but then there came a day when they were enemies with them. So more prophecy right there fulfilled. Whatever God says in this book keeps coming true. So trust this book. I'm doing these prophecy things not just because it's really awesome to see how God predicts the future, but if God can predict the future, you need to take this Bible serious. You need to get right with God, make sure that you believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and make sure that you know Corinthians 15, 1 through 4, you know the gospel that Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection saved us from our sin, and you need to believe on him for that, and that it's not by anything you can do, no works you can do, no, it's not how good you are. You just need to trust Jesus Christ. You need to pray to him, get right with him, and that's what this is all about. That's why I'm doing all these videos. I'm hoping that those of you who don't trust him now, that if I give you some proof that the Bible's real, and then tell you what the Bible says about Jesus, which I already did that in my first couple videos. I did that because it's more important than anything in the Bible, I think. That's how we're saved. But just take that really serious, and the more proof you see, the more prophecies that are fulfilled, because God says, I'm the only one that can predict the future. If anybody else could predict it, he would be God, and nobody else has ever predicted it. No other book, religious book other than the Bible could predict it. And you just need to take it serious. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So fear him and the things that he teaches you. And when you fear him, you'll look into it, you'll take it serious, you'll study it out, you'll gain wisdom from it. He'll also give you wisdom, I believe, supernaturally, help you understand things. That's why Jesus spoke in parables, right? He said he spoke in parables so that a certain group was able to understand and another group was not able to understand, depending on who trusted him, who had faith in him. So he'll give you wisdom to understand the parables Jesus spoke in, understand things that you read in the Bible that appear one way, but then you see them again and they look different to you. Like just an example of that, I feel like I had a little nugget of wisdom this morning. I was reading about the second beast that came out of the earth. I've never thought of that before. Why does it say he came out of the earth? And nobody could really give a good explanation that when I tried to research that. Some people say the best they can think is maybe coming out of the earth means coming from Israel, and coming out of the sea means coming out of a Gentile nation. And maybe that's it, but maybe the earth means something different. Maybe it's something we create in the earth. Maybe last time I talked about artificial intelligence, maybe artificial intelligence comes from this earth. Maybe it's going to be something like that, you know, a artificial intelligence being that appears to be human, or I don't know. Anyway, I think there's something there about coming out of the earth. Anyway, he'll bring things to you when you read this book, bring wisdom to you, help you understand how to live life, what he expects of you, and help you understand this book. And you just really need to get into the Bible. You need to seek Jesus and be saved, because I love all of you guys watching, and I hope that we all meet in heaven someday. And until next time, this is Jesus Loving Logger, and thank you for watching.